Alright, we're going to be working on 3.4.3, adding, subtracting functions for Algebra 1. We're just going to jump right into it. We're going to use the checkout problems like we've been doing. Alright, so the first question, they give us what the f of x function is. And remember, f of x's function notation is basically just saying that the independent variable is x. That's what goes in the parentheses. And f is the name. So this is the first function you see there is the f function. The second function is the g function. All right, so those are just the names. And then in general, the f of x is equal to y and the g of x is equal to y, right? This means they're the dependent variable. So find f plus g of x. That's how I read this, f plus g of x. All I need to do is I'm going to take my f function, which is 3x minus 7, and I'm going to add the g function. Alright, so I just took my f function, wrote it down, I added it to the g function, I wrote it down. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine my like terms. So here is an x term, and there is an x term. So I have 3 x's and I have 2 x's, so I have a total of 5 x's. And I have a negative 7 and a negative 4. Negative 7, negative 4, that's going to be a negative 11. So this is my final answer, 5x minus 11. So f plus g of x is simply 5x minus 11. That's all you got to do. You're just taking the two functions and you're adding them. Now they want us to do subtraction. Cool, we can do subtraction. I'm down with that. There's a little bit of a different step here, but we can do it. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We have f function that goes first. I'm going to write the f function first. And now this is subtraction, so I'm going to write my subtraction sign. Now, the one thing I do different when I do subtraction is before I write the g function, I'm going to go ahead and put a parenthesis. All right, so I put the parenthesis there, and now I'm going to write my g function. So 2x minus 4. Excellent, cool. So now I have that parenthesis there, and it's super important to have that because my next step is the distributive property that we kind of talked about, I think, in Unit 1, right, is we have a number right next to parentheses, and you're like, wait, what number? What number's right next to the parentheses? There's a 1. And we can even say it's a negative 1. So right there in front of the parentheses is a negative 1. And what we need to do is we need to distribute that negative 1 to both pieces of the binomial we have here. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this equation as 3x minus 7 minus 2x plus 4. Where did I get the minus 2x? Well, negative 1 times positive 2x is going to be a negative 2x. Negative 1 times a negative 4 is going to be a positive 4. All right, so anytime we have subtraction, we're going to have to distribute a negative 1. And now that this is all done, I'm going to treat it just like I did my addition up here. Here are my x values. I take the signs with them, so I have a positive 3x and a negative 2x. That means I just have an x. I have a negative 7 and a positive 4. Well, negative 7 positive 4 is going to be a negative 3. So f minus g of x is going to be x minus 3. So the difference between addition and subtraction is that subtraction, I have to have parentheses around the second function, around after the minus sign. All right, so for questions 3 and 4, use the following functions. Now we're adding again. Cool. So I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing. I'm going to take my f function. It goes first. I'm going to write it first. 2x plus 3. And then I'm going to put my addition sign. And then I'm going to write my g function. We have x squared plus x over 2. Instead of writing x over 2, I'm just going to write 1/2 x. I don't like writing x over 2. It's a 1/2 x. That's what it is. X over 2 is the same thing as 1/2 x, and that's how I'm going to write it. All right, so 2x plus 3 plus x squared plus 1/2 x minus 7. So now I need to combine my like terms. All right, so I have, here are my squared terms. Do I have any other squared term? I do not. That's all I have. Ooh, uh-oh. All right, I don't have any other squared terms, so I'm just going to write my x squared. All right. Now, I have a 2x here and a 1/2 x there. Do I have any other x terms? No, I do not. So I have a 2x and a 1/2 x. If I add that up, I am going to, excuse me. Oh, sorry. What's that going to be? A 5/2, 5/2 x? 5/2 x. And then, I'm going to go ahead and cross that out now, because I already used it. And then I have a positive 3 and a negative 7. Well, positive 3 and negative 7 is going to be a negative 4. Alright, so instead of writing x over 2, I made it a 1/2 x, and then I just combined my like terms. The x squared is different than the 2x. That's why I didn't combine them, right? Because this was an x with a 1 exponent. This was an x with a 2 exponent. They're completely different. We can't add them together. Let's go to question 3. All right, so now we got to subtract, right? So I'm going to write my f function first. Well, my f function was the 2x plus 3 minus, this is subtraction now, so I got to put that parentheses that we talked about. X squared plus, again, I'm going to write it as 1/2 x minus 7. Excellent. And now, just like I did before, I have a subtraction problem, so I need to distribute that negative 1. So I have 2x plus 3 minus x squared minus 1/2 x plus 7, right? Negative 1 times positive x squared is negative. Negative 1 times positive 1/2 is negative. Negative 1 times a negative 7 is positive. So now I'm going to go and look. Do I have any other x squared terms in this one? No, I do not. So I can cancel that out. I have negative x squared. I have a 2x and a negative 1/2. All right, well, those combined, those are the only x terms I have. That's actually going to be now a positive 3/2. Right, and as far as like the calculation, if you like, where does he get the 3/2 from? Get on Desmos.com, DESMOS.com, and click the graphing calculator and do 2 minus 1/2. And what it will give you is 1.5. And on the left side, if you click, it'll look like there's a box over a box. Click that and it should change it to a fraction of 3/2. So this is just a calculation thing. And if you have any questions specifically about that, just reach out to me and I can explain it further. And then I have a positive 3 and a positive 7. Well, that's just going to be a plus 10. So I have negative x squared plus 3/2 x plus 10. Again, subtraction, I had to put parentheses. I had to distribute the negative 1. But then in the end, I just combined my like terms and I was done with it. All right, we're going to keep doing that for questions 5 and 6. All right. And it's f plus g of x, just like we've been doing. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to write my f function first. It went first. So it's 5x squared plus 3. I'm going to add my g function, which is x squared minus 7. And now I'm going to be looking for, all right, I have an x squared term here. I have an x squared term here. Excellent. Well, I have 5x squared and 1x squared. Oh, I didn't want that. So that's going to be a 6x squared. I then have a 3 and a negative 7. That's going to give me a negative 4, right, just by combining my like terms. All right, so I'm going to do subtraction now. All right, my f function first, 5x squared plus 3 minus parentheses, right? I'm doing subtraction, so I got to put parentheses, and then I write my second function. And then what do we do next? That's absolutely correct. We are going to distribute the negative 1. So we have 5x squared plus 3 minus x squared plus 7. Right, negative 1 times a positive x squared is negative. Negative 1 times a negative 7 is a positive 7. Then I'm going to combine my like terms. I have a positive x squared, a 5x squared, and a negative x squared. Well, that's going to give me 4x squared. I have a positive 7 and a positive 3 plus 10. Boom. Alright, so again, subtraction, I had to do the parentheses and distributive properties. Get into a good habit now. We got it. We're rocking, we're rolling. Alright, so now let's go and do it again. I'll do my f function first. I have 4 to the x plus 3x plus 2x minus 5. Alright, well I have a 4 to the x and there's no other term that has an x in the exponent. So I'm going to start with that. I then have a 3x and a 2x. Well, those combine to be a 5x. And then I'm left with just a negative 5. So it's added and combine my like terms. Alright, now I got to subtract them. Alright, so it's still f going first. So I'm going to do 4 to the x power plus 3x. And then there's the subtraction, which means I got to put parentheses. And then I can write my second function, which is g. And what do I do next? That is correct. We distribute the negative sign. So we have 4x plus 3x minus 2x plus 5. So again, I have no other term that has an x exponent. So that's going to go first. I have 3x minus 2x right here in the middle. So I can just make that a plus x. And then I have a plus 5 to add at the end. And I'm done. Alright, so question 9 and 10 is starting to add some words to it, but that doesn't matter. Our steps haven't changed. We're cool. So, let me do that. Alright. The revenue from selling X tickets is R of X, right? R stands for revenue. X is the number of tickets. And that's equal to 10 times X. So what they're saying is that their revenue is equal to 10 times the number of tickets. So that would make me assume that each ticket costs $10. The cost for buying X, oh sorry. They earn $10 of revenue per ticket, not the cost. I apologize. The cost for buying X tickets is, well, the cost is equal to 8 times X plus 40. And profit is revenue minus cost. So they want to know what P of X is. Well, P of X is R of X. Well, what's R of X? R of X is 10x. Minus, oh, I have a minus. That means I got to put a parentheses. And C of X? Well, C of X is that 8x plus 40. And now what do I do next? That's right, we got to distribute. So I distribute that out. Minus 40, excellent. So 10x minus 8x is 2x, and then minus 40. So my profit is 2 times every ticket sold minus 40. All right, so that means if I sell 0 tickets, I'm actually losing $40. All right, well, that happens. That's the risk you take when you are doing this. Now, what is the profit for selling 100 tickets? Well, how do you do that? Well, what they're asking is what they're asking for P of 100, right? So X is the number of tickets. Profit is my P function. So I'm replacing the X with 100. All right, and there's my profit function that we just calculated. So all I need to do is plug 100 in for the X. All right, so the X was there. I made it 100. Put parentheses around it, made it nice and clean. 2 times 100 is 200 minus 40. 160. Ooh, I don't know how that happened. So, what is the profit for selling 100 tickets? Well, it's $160. That's pretty cool.